Arthur Phillip sailed the seas, bound for shores beyond the breeze, with 11 ships and convicts too, to start a colony anew. The southern land awaits, changing history's fate. Born a naval man of might, in London town to skies so bright, rose through ranks with honor strong, served the crown his whole life long, selected for a mission grand, to claim for Britain distant land. From Portsmouth dock they set their course, with hope and fear in equal force. Captain Arthur Phillip sailed the seas, bound for shores beyond the breeze, with 11 ships and convicts too, to start a colony anew. Southern land awaits, changing history's fate.
Hello and welcome to The Convict Diaries. Captain Arthur Phillip was a British naval officer, colonial administrator, and the first governor of New South Wales. He is best known for leading the first fleet to Australia in 1788 and establishing the first European colony at Port Jackson, which later became Sydney. His leadership, vision, and diplomatic skills played a crucial role in the early years of the settlement and in shaping the foundation of modern Australia.
Arthur Phillip was born on 11th October 1738 in the parish of All Hallows in Bread Street, London. His father, Jacob Phillip, was an immigrant from Frankfurt who was variously described as a language teacher, a merchant vessel owner, a merchant captain, or a common seaman. His mother, Elizabeth Breach, was the widow of John Herbert, a common seaman who had died of disease in Jamaica aboard HMS Tartar on 13th August 1732. At the time of Arthur Phillip's birth, his family lived modestly as tenants near Cheapside in the City of London. There are no surviving records of Phillip's early childhood. His father passed away in 1739, leaving the family with a low income. At the age of 9, Arthur went to sea on a British naval vessel. On 22nd June 1751, he was admitted to the Greenwich Hospital School, a charity school for the sons of impoverished seafarers. There, he received an education focused on literacy, arithmetic, and navigational skills, including cartography. His headmaster, Reverend Francis Swindon, described him as unassuming, reasonable, businesslike to the smallest degree in everything he undertakes. Phillip remained at the Greenwich Hospital School for 2.5 years, exceeding the average student stay of 1 year. At the end of 1753, he secured a 7-year apprenticeship aboard Fortune, a 210-ton whaling vessel commanded by merchant mariner William Reedhead. He left the school on 1st December and spent the following months aboard Fortune, awaiting the start of the 1754 whaling season. Contemporary portraits depict Phillip as shorter than average, with an olive complexion and dark eyes. He had a long nose and a pronounced lower lip, features that Robert Hughes described as forming a smooth pair of a skull.
Lord Sandwich, alongside Sir Joseph Banks, the president of the Royal Society and a scientist who had accompanied Lieutenant James Cook on his 1770 voyage, advocated for the establishment of a British colony in Botany Bay, New South Wales. In Nia, July 1783, Banks accepted assistance from American loyalist James Matra, who, under Banks' guidance, quickly drafted a proposal for establishing a settlement in New South Wales, 24 August 1783. Matra outlined a vision for the colony, suggesting it be composed of American loyalists, Chinese laborers, and South Sea Islanders, but notably not convicts. As Secretary of State for the Home Office, Lord Sydney oversaw the decision to establish the colony in Australia. The initiative was driven by two key factors: the loss of North America as a destination for transported convicts following the American Revolution, and the strategic need for a British presence in the Pacific to counter French expansion.
In September 1786, Arthur Phillip was appointed Commodore of the fleet, later known as the First Fleet. His mission was to transport convicts and military personnel to establish a colony at Botany Bay. Upon arrival, Phillip was to assume the powers of Captain General and Governor-in-Chief of the new settlement. Additionally, a subsidiary colony was to be established on Norfolk Island, as recommended by Sir John Call and Sir George Young, to utilize the island's native flax, hariceke, and timber for naval purposes. On 25 October 1786, the 20-gun HMS Sirius was commissioned at Deptford, with Phillip appointed as its commander. Additionally, the armed tender HMAT Supply, under the command of Lieutenant Henry Lidgebird Ball, was assigned to join the expedition. On 15th December, Captain John Hunter was designated as second captain of Sirius, ensuring command continuity. In Phillip's absence while he governed the colony, a fleet of 11 ships carrying approximately 1,500 people under Phillip's leadership set sail from Portsmouth, England, on 13th May 1787. HMS Hyena provided an escort until the fleet departed British waters. By 3 June 1787, the fleet anchored at Santa Cruz, Tenerife, before crossing the Atlantic to Rio de Janeiro, leveraging favorable trade winds. They arrived in Rio de Janeiro on 5 August and stayed for a month to resupply. Departing on 4 September, they navigated toward Table Bay in southern Africa, reaching their final port of call before Botany Bay on 13th October.
On the 25th of November, Phillip transferred to the faster supply, leading a small advance group to prepare for the fleet's arrival. However, his flying squadron, as historian Alan Frost described it, reached Botany Bay only hours before the rest of the fleet, rendering advance preparations impossible. The supply arrived at Botany Bay on the 18th of January, 1788, followed by 3 faster transports on the 19th of January, with the remainder of the fleet, including Sirius, reaching the destination on the 20th of January. Phillip quickly determined that the site, recommended by Sir Joseph Banks based on James Cook's 1770 exploration, was inadequate due to poor soil, lack of a reliable water source, and insecure anchorage. Unlike Banks, who had a scientific interest, Phillip assessed the site as a responsible administrator overseeing over 1,000 convicts. After exploring the coastline, he chose Port Jackson as a superior location. On the 26th of January, 1788, the Marines and convicts landed at a cove, which Phillip named Sydney Cove in honour of Lord Sydney. Today, this date is Australia's National Day, Australia Day.
Phillip formally proclaimed the colony on 7th of February 1788, describing Sydney Cove as, without exception, the finest harbour in the world. Here 1,000 sail of the line may ride in the most perfect security, managing the colony's material needs. Was just one aspect of administering what was essentially a penal settlement. Maintaining effective discipline was crucial in this isolated community where convicts significantly outnumbered their guards and conventional imprisonment was impractical. Phillip arranged convict housing in a series of strategically positioned huts that could be monitored at night. However, the watch necessarily comprised mostly trustworthy convicts, creating friction with the Marines who resented those occasions when convict guards caught Marines violating regulations. Phillip maintained firm discipline. Though by contemporary standards his methods weren't considered excessively harsh, he recognized the importance of positive reinforcement alongside punishment. Demonstrating industry earned his personal recognition and sometimes appointments to positions of trust with accompanying privileges. He granted 26 pardons to those showing exemplary character, including 14 prisoners who had conducted themselves admirably during the Guardian shipwreck.
To further motivate the convicts, Phillip clearly established that land grants would be reserved exclusively for those who demonstrated their merit while serving their sentences. These policies reflected his genuine commitment to rehabilitation, a goal the Home Office acknowledged only superficially. The effectiveness of his approach remains difficult to measure precisely, though both his contemporaries and modern historians have acknowledged the efficacy of his leadership. Magistrates adjudicated minor infractions within the settlement, while more serious offenses went before the civil and criminal courts. Though Phillip didn't personally sit on either bench, he could influence judicial proceedings by determining court composition within certain parameters and modifying sentences. Before departing England, he had expressed opposition to capital punishment except for murder and sodomy, crimes he believed warranted delivering the guilty to the natives of New Zealand to be consumed. This extreme punishment was never actually implemented, though executions did occur, particularly for food theft during periods of scarcity. More commonly, offenders received lashes, a standard punishment in both military branches at the time, or assignment to a prison work gang.
Phillip's tenure as governor was marked by immense challenges, including food shortages, harsh environmental conditions, and conflicts with Indigenous Australians. He implemented strict rationing and discipline to ensure the colony's survival. Generally, the convict population responded positively to his governance. Violent crimes were uncommon, and while theft occurred with some frequency, many such incidents stemmed from desperation and hunger rather than malicious intent. Governor Phillip was firmly opposed to any mistreatment of Aboriginal peoples. His official instructions mandated establishing and maintaining amicable relations with them. Humanitarian directives he took seriously. He developed a genuine interest in Aboriginal customs, as did many of his officers. Phillip offered gifts and personally cared for 2 Aboriginal men, Koleba and Benelong, consistently striving to cultivate their friendship and trust. Initially, his efforts appeared successful. The Aboriginal peoples showed no immediate desire to expel the settlers and appeared to respect both their capabilities and Phillip himself, whose missing front tooth seemed to hold special significance to them. However, tensions gradually emerged, eventually compelling Phillip to take disciplinary measures. Even after being wounded by a spear at Manly Cove, he continued to exercise restraint in his response.
However, conflicts did arise, particularly as tensions escalated between settlers and the local Eora people. While Phillip sought conciliation, early relations were marred by misunderstandings, violence, and retaliatory actions on both sides. He famously ordered the capture of Indigenous men such as Benelong in an effort to foster communication, though these efforts had mixed results. Phillip also faced resistance from the New South Wales Marine Corps, particularly from Major Robert Ross and his officers who refused to perform duties beyond their guard responsibilities. Phillip, keen to maintain order and avoid unnecessary friction, eventually resolved this by sending Ross to Norfolk Island in 1790. With the arrival of the New South Wales Corps in 1791, the Marines were gradually replaced, and Major Francis Gross assumed command of the colony upon Phillip's departure in 1792.
I found very little on his private life, but in July 1763, he married Margaret Charlotte Dennison, the widow of a wealthy London merchant. The couple settled into country life near Lyndhurst in Hampshire, where Phillip farmed. The marriage later failed, and they separated in 1768. Following his return to England, Charlotte passed away on 3 August 1792 and was buried at St. Buno's churchyard in Llanacil Bala, Merionethshire. 2 years later, on 8 May 1794, he married Isabella Whitehead of Bath at St. Marylebone Parish Church in London. Phillip's health improved, allowing him to resume active naval service. In March 1796, he was recommissioned to command the 74-gun HMS Alexander as part of the Channel Fleet. Later that year, he was transferred to the 74-gun HMS Swiftshore before assuming command of the 90-gun HMS Blenheim in September 1797. By 1798, he took charge of the Hampshire Sea Fencibles and was later appointed Inspector of the Impress Service, traveling across Britain to assess and strengthen naval recruitment efforts. Philip rose through the ranks, achieving the title of Rear Admiral on 1st January 1801, Vice Admiral on 13th December 1806, and finally, Admiral of the Blue on the 4th June 1814. Despite his advancing career, a stroke in 1808 left him partially paralyzed, forcing him into retirement. He spent his final years in Bath, where he passed away on 31st August 1814 at his residence on Bennett Street. Philip was laid to rest at St. Nicholas's Church in Bethampton. For many years, the location of his grave was forgotten until its rediscovery in 1897 by a church cleaner lifting a mat, coinciding with historian James Bonwick's search for its whereabouts. Today, an annual remembrance service is held at the church in his honor, organized by the Britain-Australia Society. However, in 2007, historian Geoffrey Robertson suggested that Philip's remains might no longer rest in St. Nicholas's Church, raising questions about their true location.
It was unfortunate that ill health resulted in Philip returning to England in 1792, but there remains a respected figure in British naval and colonial history. His efforts in establishing the first European settlement in Australia set the stage for future development, and his governance influenced later colonial policies. Today, he is remembered as a key figure in Australian history, with numerous landmarks and institutions named in his honor. Captain Arthur Phillip's role in founding Australia's first European colony was pivotal in shaping the nation's history. His leadership, resilience, and vision helped establish a settlement that grew into one of the world's most significant cities. While his tenure had its challenges, his contributions remain a lasting part of Australia's heritage. Thank you so much for joining us as we looked at Captain Arthur Phillip, the founder of modern Australia. Please join us again next time